and turned my phone off because it rang right when the meeting started. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody, for coming to Huddle today. I hope we can produce something that's worth your while. And so we're going to kind of pick up a little bit where we left off last time. I do want to discuss contingent cancellations. I think that's a pretty helpful tool. We were going to discuss that last time, didn't quite get to it. Um, and as we continually say, AI is going to be a subject that we're going to be talking about a lot in the coming months. So if anybody has any questions on that or concerns or inquiry, let me know. And as always, feel free to interrupt, ask any questions you want because 60 minutes is a long time to talk into the void. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on any subject you deem worthy. I don't have any, I'm not going to moderate what you have to say here. So let's jump right into it. By the way, put it in the chat or unmute yourself. How many people have used the contingent cancellation form, let's say in the last 12 months or so? Anybody used it? I'm going to take that as a huge no. No one has used it. Um, I'm going to encourage, if you haven't used it and it's not in your thought process, I'm going to go ahead and encourage everybody on this call to start thinking about it. It does have a couple of things that I would say are its weaknesses. Let's say that. But it does have a lot of benefits. So, for the unfamiliar, the contingent cancellation form is sort of the split between, you negotiating maybe verbally or over text or something like that, and actually issuing a notice of cancellation. Because obviously, once we issue a notice of cancellation, it's sort of over, right? There's no further negotiation. And this document really helps you say, hey, you either accept my terms or we cancel. And does that in a really great way. So um, let's read through it a little bit. So, paragraph one, extension of deadline. Seller and buyer hereby agree to the following. So, you're either going to check one or both. The due diligence deadline is extended to, or the finance and appraisal deadline is extended to. And we'll come back to that in just a minute. And then, paragraph two, notice of cancellation. If for any reason seller does not accept the terms of this addendum in its entirety by the applicable deadline below, this addendum shall act as buyer's written notice of cancellation of the REPC pursuant to, and then you need to check one of these boxes. And this is the reason why you were canceling. So you're either canceling for the due diligence condition or the financing condition. And then the deadline to accept this addendum, and then the seller shall have until A, the last mutually accepted due diligence deadline prior to this addendum, or B, the last mutually accepted financing and appraisal deadline prior to this addendum. So I really like this. This is a way to put sort of your client's sentiment into, hey, you either extend or we're canceling. Talk can be cheap, right? We can say we're going to cancel, and people may psychologically interpret that one way, but I think this is a really great way to communicate. You either extend and we're done. Um, Teresa Holmes says, hi, I'm a newbie. Can you please share the form we are discussing? Teresa, are you saying you cannot see the form right now? Can everybody see the form? Okay, Doug. Yeah, we can see it. Yeah, Teresa, this form is in .loop for you newbies. It is a UAR form, so it's a state-approved form. It's also on the MLS if you need it. It's also in .loop under interactive UAR form. So I'm going to post a question to the group. What is the weaknesses of this form, would you imagine? There's one weakness I noticed, and it arose from someone actually attempting to use this in a situation that didn't perfectly match either the due diligence deadline extension or the finance and appraisal deadline extension.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, take it away.
I don't think this is the answer you're looking for, but we've used this, or I've used this a couple times. And I would say, one, the weakness that we always had is perception. I don't think many agents know about this. And so they look at this and they say, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Because this will always come along with something else or waiting for them to sign. So perception, I guess, is I would throw that out. I always have to call and give an overview of what our intent is with this.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, I mean, that's a perfect weakness to talk about. The agent popul I mean, that is as real as it gets. The agent's population's perception of a document is as important as what the document says itself. And in this instance, people don't use this enough, in my opinion. I think when we talk about, when we oftentimes when people cancel, it can be from any number of methods that they're going to actually cancel a deal. It can come sort of like as a buildup, you're talking about repairs, or it could come just sort of a last minute cancellation, just hit your email and it's a gut punch, that type of thing. But if you've been negotiating things for a while and say, hey, we might have to cancel, this is a really good way to do it. But it can, just like Doug said, it can come across any number of ways. And one of those is like, whoa, this is a bit much, isn't it? You're sort of holding us over a barrel here. Yeah, we are. That's the intent of it. Um, as a reminder, one of the key things I think they completely missed on this thing, the due diligence deadline and the finance and appraisal deadline are not the only things that could potentially need to be changed for you to either, you either accept our changes to this document or we cancel. That's not the only thing. There could be any number of things that we are sort of like, you either accept this or we cancel type situation. And to me, there's a lot of uses for take my new terms or we cancel. Like there's a whole host of reasons why we might do that, not just the due diligence deadline and the finance and appraisal deadline. Now, and one of those, the theme, and just like Doug, I don't think a lot of people in my office use this form as much as they should. Maybe the situation doesn't arise as much as it should, but I think it does, and people forget about this form. Um, and the reason that I've sort of started thinking about it was that an agent in my office was like, "Hey, listen, they need to close later, and they're still within their finance and appraisal condition, but we need to close later because of extenuating circumstances." I'm like, "Oh, well, this is a great opportunity for you to use the contingent cancellation. Yeah, just use that form; it'll work great." And they call me back 20 minutes later, like, "This form doesn't work great for my scenario." I'm like, "Nah, I think you're probably wrong." And then I pulled it up and, of course, felt stupid. Um, anyway, but I think the workaround here is, as a reminder, and use this advice sparingly. As long as we're using language that has already been written and concepts that have already been fleshed out via our forms, there's no reason we can't copy and paste this language into an addendum, right? We can copy and paste this exact language into different addendums if we do it right. And I think if you're attempting to do that, please involve your broker when you do that to make sure it's executed correctly. And in this instance, we simply created a blank addendum that said extension of deadlines. And we said, settlement deadline to be extended to, and then we copied and pasted notice of cancellation. And honestly, you could paste that entire paragraph two in there, and then just say, um, uh, and you could even do the financing and appraisal condition as one of the reasons that you're going to accept, and even copy paragraph three. Minor changes, but the effect is still the same, and I think it's a pretty valuable negotiation tool. So remember that. And by the way, let me see if I can just attach this document here real quick. I'll throw this in the chat in case anybody wants to read it here. There you go. All right. Does anybody have any questions on that? I think, again, really valuable document, and I highly encourage its use. Because you know what? Sometimes people just don't get it. They don't hear what you're saying. Text message may not deliver the type of urgency that maybe you should deliver. They're not answering their phone. And sometimes you got to beat them over the head with a well worded addendum. So there it be. Hey, this next subject we want to talk about, this occurs frequently throughout the brokerage, and it's the sort of tried and that's not the right way to say it. This we talk about this kind of a lot, but it's still an issue, and I think we should always sort of remind everybody and give a best practice on how to deal with the situation. The situation is you are the listing agent, and a buyer comes through and says, "Hey, I'm unrepresented. I want to remain unrepresented." And a couple things happen there. One, what are our responsibilities in this situation? And two, how do we handle the most likely scenario when they say, hey, because I'm unrepresented, I'm going to go ahead and knock that commission off the top and try to get a reduced commission on this situation. Has anybody had this happen to them lately? Is this, and by lately, I mean the last 6 months? Some buyer trying to make a play for a buyer's agent commission because they're unrepresented. Is this because it does happen frequently? Um, if it hasn't happened to you, eventually it will happen. Let's talk about a buyer's attempt to make a claim on a buyer's agent commission. This is actually a really easy objection to handle as you as a listing agent. Um, and it's pretty simple. Who can collect commissions in any form for selling real estate? Anybody?
Licensed agent.
There we go. Thank you so much, Doug. Yeah, only a licensed real estate agent can collect a commission. So instead of my strategy is always instead of telling somebody no, I get excited. You say, "Oh, great! Are you a licensed real estate agent? So we can send this commission to your brokerage." Or, get your broker's permission to reduce the entire commission off the purchase price because, I'll get right on that. Oh, no, I'm not that person. I'm sorry. Then you can't make any claims to this. You don't have a position to make a claim. Well, I'll negotiate a lower price. Oh, that's different, isn't it? Of course, you can negotiate a lower price. Those are two different things. But as far as negotiations go and kind of putting the opposition in their place, so to speak, I think that's kind of a powerful thing to acknowledge up front. Because when people dig in their heels on subjects and you can't get them off center, well, that's, in this particular instance, don't let them hang around and continually make claims about, well, you're not paying a buyer's commission. You're right, I'm not, because there is no buyer's commission. And that's, the seller just doesn't have to pay that expense. And also, let's think about the logic here on that claim to a buyer's commission. Um, why would a seller just be like, oh, because there's no buyer, I'd be happy to take less money still. I'll give it to somebody else. Kind of weird, right? Like, who really wants to do that? No, that's my money. I'm only going to pay it in the event that there's a buyer's agent. And if there's not a buyer's agent, why would they just voluntarily give that up to somebody else? Like it's a specific claim for a specific amount of money for a specific reason, right? It's not just negotiating the value of the property, which is a different type of negotiation. So remember that. Don't gloss over it. I think it's a real moment to save your seller some money and to kind of plant your feet in the ground as no, this isn't just an issue we gloss over so easily. Um, but let's transition this conversation into talking about the pitfalls of an unrepresented buyer. What is everybody's experience as a listing agent with an unrepresented buyer? Has it been a good experience? I know for a fact that Angie has had this experience without question. And Angie, what do you have to say for yourself?
Let me unmute myself. Well, that was random. Yeah, that would be, and we actually talked about this 2 days ago in sales meeting.
Mhm.
Like the better way is just, as Will would say, your customer. Um, just do the right thing, give them the documents that they need, and don't just hand it to them. Make sure that you do your due diligence and explain the expectations on what what they need to do, how to fill that out. Because I think, just simply giving them forms and just saying, here you go, that's not the best way. I hope I'm answering your question right.
No, that's actually a great answer. Good segue into the things I want to talk about too. Um, that may seem counterintuitive to you, to a lot of agents, that we don't just hand these documents or provide the documents to unrepresented buyers and then tell them good luck. Um, because that's really probably not the best way to handle this situation at all. Debbie says we've experienced several buyers wanting to be unrepresented over the past few months. Yeah, I think this is, it's an ongoing thing. It'll never end. And a lot of these unrepresented buyers, there's a lot of goofy stuff online about buying real estate, a lot of goofy stuff. And a lot of people get these ideas from seminars and YouTubers and influencers and whatnot. And as we know, those things are not always based in reality. But let's go back to and discuss directly what Angie said. Is it in our seller's best interest that a completely uneducated person in this field is attempting to fill out a document and create a purchase agreement with your seller and they have no idea what they're doing or how that document should be executed? No, it's not in their best interest. Also, to me, it's a really good opportunity to start getting the things that you know your seller wants. So a really good response is you provide those documents, like, hey, so are you squared away with with the purchase contract? Do you understand the purchase contract? And do you feel comfortable filling it out? Now, I know a lot of you are like, well, there's a problem here because we can't give advice to other people that we don't represent. And you're absolutely correct. We can't give advice. But at the same time, so here's an easy difference we can kind of delineate. When let's say the unrepresented buyer, you're on the phone with them and they have a question for you. Okay, so what do I put in this section where it says earnest money, down payment, and then purchase price? Well, your response is, yeah, I can tell you what to put in purchase price. We're asking 755,000, so that's what you should put in purchase price for sure. Why wouldn't you do that, right? Because that's in your best interest. You can tell them the things that go in there and why they're meaningful, but you can't say, well, the seller's willing to accept less than 55,000. That's obvious, right? What should my deadlines be? Well, I can't give you any advice on that, but I'll tell you what my seller wants, right? You can do that. And this is how, you need to put a date in there. You can't just say X number of days from here in this scenario. We can give advice that closely aligns with our seller. We can definitely do that. So we shouldn't just leave it up to chance for these unexperienced people to fill out these documents. We need to explain what these blanks mean, right? I mean, that's really what we're licensed to do, is fill out blanks on these forms that they provide us. And so we can say this blank does this and it's meaningful for this reason. Well, what should I do? Well, that's up to you. I can't give you that advice. It's sort of the direction you should go. And I think we can all see pretty easily, it's in your seller's best interest to have a really good offer presented to them that is meaningful to them and not a hot mess. But let's read. Remember, you shouldn't do any of this unless you fill out the unrepresented buyer form. Let's review that really quick. All right, you should see this form, unrepresented buyer disclosure. Now, real quick, can we force people to sign this? Like, hey, we can't make offers until you sign the unrepresented buyer disclosure. We can't. No one is required to sign anything. You may encounter a situation where an unrepresented buyer doesn't want to sign this, and your duty is to present it to them and ask for them to sign it. If they say I'm not going to sign that, it's just a verbal or it's over text message. You say, hey, I'm going to send it to you for signature anyway. This is an important document to my seller. That's the minimum amount of your requirement in this situation. We can't force them to do it, but we should at least have a record that we sent it to them and that we attempted to get this signed. So, but let's read it because I think this stuff's meaningful. First paragraph there. When you enter into a discussion with a real estate agent regarding a potential real estate transaction, you should, from the outset, understand who the real estate agent is representing in that transaction. What follows is a brief, but very informative explanation regarding agency relationships and the real estate agents involved in the seller transaction. All right, seller's agent. This is you. I mean, you should understand this as the seller's agent. A real estate agent who lists the seller's property for sale is the seller's agent, acts as an agent for the seller only, and has fiduciary duties of loyalty, full disclosure, confidentiality, and reasonable care to that seller. In practical terms, the seller hires a seller's agent to locate a buyer and negotiate a transaction with terms favorable to the seller. Although the seller's agent has these fiduciary duties to the seller's agent is by law responsible to all prospective buyers to treat them with honesty, fair dealing, and with good faith. So let's talk about that for a minute as it pertains to providing them documents. Yeah, we need to be honest about the situation, and it pairs perfectly with these are the blanks that you need to fill out, and this is why they're important, and the information that goes in there is X, Y, or Z. But I can't give you advice on what you should do X, Y, or Z. Buyer's agent, a real estate agent that acts as an agent for the buyer only, has the same fiduciary duties to that buyer that a seller's agent has to the seller. In practical terms, the buyer hires a buyer's agent to locate a suitable property and negotiate a transaction with terms favorable to the buyer. Although the buyer's agent has these fiduciary duties to the buyer's agent is by law responsible to all prospective sellers to treat them with honesty, fair dealing, and with good faith. Agent of both sellers. Now, this will be important because we are going to talk about what we prefer as a brokerage that you do in this situation. A real estate agent can, with the prior written consent of the buyer and seller, represent both the buyer and seller in the same transaction. A limited agent has fiduciary duties to both the buyer and the seller, but the limited agent is also limited by a separate duty of neutrality in the negotiation between the buyer and seller. Okay, so now what is everybody's opinion on this subject? Because my opinion is that it's probably in everyone's best interest in this situation that you attempt to secure some limited agency between an unrepresented buyer and a seller. I know that, for a long time in our industry, there's been sort of a sense of we probably shouldn't do this. There are states that have laws against limited or dual agency. You can't even do it, but we can in this state. There would be plenty of people that say absolutely not, I don't want to do it, and that is your prerogative. In this situation, though, because of its sort of the uniqueness of it, we do encourage a limited agency situation. So you can actually give some advice on how this should be handled, and I think the transaction would go much smoother if you did. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? And by the way, obviously, being a limited agent is something that you should discuss beforehand. So in our listing agreements, we already have, when we redid the listing agreements after the big settlement, we put in, for a very specific reason, unrepresented buyers and a limited agency situation in which we collect additional compensation. So theoretically, if you're filling that out, you should have had that discussion about why you're charging more for a limited agency situation. And you should say, hey, if there is an unrepresented buyer, are you okay with me discussing a limited agency situation? I think it's beneficial for these reasons. I think that's a conversation that you should have ahead of time so you're not sort of like arriving at their doorstep with a buyer in hand and say, hey, by the way, this is what limited agency is, and we should do this because it's beneficial to you. That's a very different conversation. I think maybe comes across as manipulative. Anyway, be that as it may, that's what we recommend is become limited agents in this situation so you can give advice and help fill out forms properly instead of potentially crossing the line, because crossing the line with unrepresented buyers is actually really easy to do. And I think there's a lot of pitfalls there. Any questions on the unrepresented buyer. No, okay. Hey, let's talk about, I do want to talk about AI for a bit. Um, and I've had this week I had kind of two AI meetings, two AI sales meetings between Logan and my Ogden office, and they went fine. But I do feel like the reaction and the questions, there's some trepidation out there from the agent body about this new tool that will be rolling out. Anybody, how does what is everybody's comfort level? I don't know how to ask this question, but please, everybody respond. What is your comfort level with AI, specifically using AI in your business? What is your comfort level on, let's say, a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being I couldn't be more comfortable, one being what is AI? Please respond. I want to have some kind of Alana 8, Megan 8. Those are good numbers. Raquel 5-ish. Dave 7.5. Those are good numbers. Simple prompting only. So a 2. Um, Bob 4. Kimmy 4. Okay. 5. How do you here's one of I guess I'll tell you this. One of my surprises is, and this is my own shortcoming, the things I don't understand a lot of this stuff, but um, okay, I'm going to ask the same question for context. Okay, so all the people that just answered, if you would, what I'm just going to throw this in there. You may not use Real Scout, but if you did answer and you use Real Scout, what is your comfort level with Real Scout on the same scale? Dave 11, Doug 8, 6, 5. Trish says, I'm a new agent getting into it, more social media. So I'm still learning all at once. 6, 8, 9. Okay. So yeah, that's sort of, I guess one of my surprises with this new tool is my perspective is having used AI for quite a bit of time. I've been using it for more than a few years and in some aspects fairly heavily. Um, it's less complicated to me than say Real Scout, or the usability or the intuitiveness of it is less complicated, and so which brought it back to sort of on me and how I presented the tool and how it can be used. And because I've been using it for long enough that I'm like, well, of course this is how you use the tool. Why doesn't everybody else know this? Well, you're not using it in the same way that I am, so there's no way for you to understand that. So that's sort of a weird position for me to take. But yeah, I think as we have already created some of these tools, and so and of course we spend the time vetting the tool, making sure it's going to be really usable. Um, Joe says, "Are you using AI now?" I'm not really sure. This is my Hey, that's a very fair perspective. As you may wonder, this is not my usual background, and I do look like I'm in a cave, and it's not far off. This is my home office, which is a glorified storage room that I've converted into my home office with no windows and only one light that is currently working because of the internet. I know. Why are my lights connected to the internet? It's stupid, but they are, and they went out 2 days ago. But I'm also in my office because I had a flat tire this morning, and my tire went completely flat in 30 seconds, and it disrupted my day. So here I am in the cave. It's not AI. I haven't actually figured out how to do that yet, but in the future, this will be AI mic, and you look much younger today. Oh, that's a filter. You can do a filter in Zoom, Joe, to make yourself look younger if you haven't figured that out. Yeah, it's touch up your look. Anywho, um, these tools that we're rolling out, one thing that we've created is that we are giving you a lot more information surrounding, say, your listings, your community, you know, putting all these things that you may gather into one space. And part of our challenge that is ahead of us is, you know, teaching this one, like what is the most valuable thing for you to use, and how do you use that? And that sort of has happened to me over the last couple sales meetings that I gave. Um, by the way, has anybody? How many people here have? You're either probably using ChatGPT or Gemini. You know, some of you might be using Grok, or you know, there's a ton of them out there now. There's more every day. Um, but would you also just really quickly, everybody, please answer which AI service you're using and prefer? If you'd throw that in there real quick, so we have some perspective. Uh, ChatGPT, kind of what we figured. Um, Doug, use several each until I reach my freebie limit. Yes, chat and Gemini. Okay. Yeah, they're Doug's sort of hitting at a point that I think is important, um, as something we're considering. So one of the tools that we're launching, and you got, I think last time we did a small, you know, we shared it. Joe shared that tool real quick, and I don't want to do that right now, but Joe did share that tool real quick to just show you what it's capable of. It's connected to the MLS. It's also connected to a whole bunch of different databases. So when you, you know, and some of it is stuff we know already, like some of the, you know, the school databases, and so you know, can provide easy links, and the demographic piece, which I don't think we get at very much, which I think is interesting. But there's so far, some of the tools that we've created haven't done, say, transaction management. We haven't really touched on that as a company-wide tool. Now, what I've been doing in sales meeting is teaching you how to create your own, let's call it, I'm calling them AI agents. In ChatGPT, they're referred to as custom GPTs. In Gemini, they are referred to as gems. And these are basically your own more personalized AI agent that has more specific function than telling you everything that exists everywhere, everything all at once, type of a situation. And I think they're it's a pretty amazing tool. So we're sort of getting along there. Also, thank you, by the way, for responding. What do you want AI to do with your business? Like, what is, if you had a dream scenario of what AI could do for you and your business, like what are the top two or three things that you want it to actually do for you? And to give you some examples of what I'm sort of creating some of these things to do, organize marketing efforts around a listing, which would include maybe creating the things we did in sales meeting yesterday was work on a listing launch tool. So you would get a calendar of, you know, a custom calendar that would include, you know, social media posts, open houses, marketing creation. It would create, you know, two or three versions of a property description based on the photos you gave it. It would create listing weekly updates based on your input emails, right? If you want to have an email ready to go every week with listing updates, like what do you want it to do for you? It can do almost anything. You can manage your transactions. Um, Debbie says, tell me who my target buyer is and give me their phone numbers. Ooh, the first one, no problem. Second one, also, all honestly, the second one, oh, I see what you're saying. Second one's gonna be a problem. Second one's gonna be a problem. But I bet there's a service out there somewhere that might be able to do that. But remember, creating a target demographic of the people that you want to go find as buyers might be problematic. Remember, Facebook took that ability away for us to market listings to certain people. You know, they're like, you can't do that. But let's talk about tell me who my target buyer is. That is a really great piece of information that would be amazing for a listing presentation. So, and I don't know if anyone who's going into depth about that subject. So, because your target buyer, your target demographic, in depending on the community you're in, is going to be significantly different. And that is something, and I've already experimented with this. I did it on my own house, and I asked a lot of weird questions, and I uploaded information about the sale of my house from the MLS and photos and tax records. And then I asked it to create a buyer profile for me for this house that I'm about to list. And it did a pretty good job. And it gave me some in-depth information with links to back up the stuff that it was saying. So, Debbie, I'm here to encourage you to go explore that subject in your next listing presentation, because it'll do that for you. It'll go out there and do that. Now, also, always as a cautionary tale on this subject, um, don't just automatically trust the things that you're saying. It should provide you with a link of the sources that it came from. So go check those out to verify so you're comfortable with it. But that is something we're working on, as that in my opinion should be part of every future listing presentation. Who is the most likely buyer of this property? Where do they come from? Where do they work? What does their income look like? Are they, moving across town? Are they in migration to the state of Utah? That type of thing. I think that's a really meaningful conversation to have with the seller, and it means something, right? What else? What does everybody else want it to do? The answer could be nothing. Trish says, assist me to get in front of the target buyer looking to buy, including from outside the US. Yeah, like I think that's a pretty good. There is a disconnect there, though. So we can discuss what the demographic looks like. To actually get contact information, I think, is difficult. Now, when I created the listing launchpad, part of the exercise is, you create an initial set of instructions for your custom GPT or your gem, and in Google's case. And, part of the improvement on that set of instructions was, I want you to create social media posts based on the target demographic of the potential purchaser for this specific listing. Because of course you can say, create me a social media post for my new listing, and it will. AI will go out and create that post for you. But the better thing is, create me a social media post that will target the potential buyers for this specific listing in Logan, Utah, or in Holiday, or in Bountiful at this price point. That's meaningful. That's more meaningful than other reasons. So, or any other social media post that you might encounter. But the disconnect there would be, going back to Debbie's comment, and give me their phone numbers. I think that's a tough one. But you do have forewarn, which won't give you a whole bunch of people's phone numbers. You get specific people's phone numbers. Anything else? Anything else that someone wants it to do for them that they're currently struggling with? It's an amazing organizer, by the way. Transaction management, I think, is something that I'm leaning to as a potential tool for you. Because I think, when we talk about transaction management, it's not just remembering key dates. It's a customer service aspect that you can provide, small, really great sort of final touches that you would want to do, but you can't because you're busy or it's time consuming. And AI can do these things for you very quickly, I think, is the idea there. So transaction management, listing launchpad, those are the two things. The other thing I'm really gearing towards, and we sort of touched on this, is a pre-listing tool that will give you all the data and demographics and give you another brain to help you analyze the price of the property based on comparables that you input. I think that's pretty meaningful. Document analysis. For those of you who aren't using it to analyze all the documents that come across your desk, I think that's a huge miss for you. So a really good example would be, how many people are reading the title report front to back, every single word? Probably not most of us. Like, we all know that we're going to certain sections because those sections are the problem sections, and a huge portion of that title report is boilerplate. We kind of understand that. But think about this: instead of you having to know whether or not you've read the whole thing, have AI analyze that for you and ask questions about that document. It's a really good use of that tool. Linda says, has anyone used it for targeted farming better than a program like Fluid? You added an E there. Is the E correct? It is correct. Okay. I don't know. Is Linda, unmute yourself and give us a little background on Fluid. That's how you pronounce it.
Sorry, I went to the dentist, so my jaw
And
really
I don't
hurt.
hear you even though your mic is off.
Oh,
There we go. I hear you now. I don't know what happened. That was weird.
sorry, I went to the dentist. My jaw really hurts. Um, Fluid is a program I got from a title company, and you can do property search. You can search, see what loans are out on it, and you can see what properties people own. So you can search by owner, by property, and you can also go in there and it'll flag homes in neighborhoods that should be hot to sell.
Okay. So what you're talking about, I think there's I don't know, because I don't know the functionality of it. I feel like there's a program in the MLS that has something similar. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Let me look. Or it might be gone. Like,
No, a Real Scout can do the heat map as well, but Fluid's a little different. And I just wondered if anybody had used Chat GPT to even be more specific.
um, Remine. Remine on the MLS has will rank people according to their potential. Go look at Remine, Remine in the MLS. I think there's a fee associated with it, but I think you might get a discount because it's on the MLS. That is a similar tool. So in the future, that's actually a really good use of what we're talking about. So some of these programs, like the MLS, because the MLS is sort of, a realtor's tool and we pay for that tool, that's how we have it connected to AI currently because it's sort of our thing, right? But to get it to access these other things like these paid services, I think is a whole different animal. But these are the things that it should be doing for us. Because you're right, like, identify the correct people to prospect to is a huge thing. And also, um, as far as CRM stuff go, I think it's a really valuable tool for your CRM or how you're going to use it or how that would rank people according to their interaction with you. I think is a really valuable thing to use it for. All right. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, or want to throw in an idea for us as we are marching down the AI road?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, take it away.
So I'll give a little bit of background on this. So my wife is part of the healthcare organization at the University of Utah. They are absolutely 100% forbidden from uploading any file, image, or anything on a public Chat GPT account. And the way that their security officer explained it to them is if you do not have a paid account with Chat GPT, anything you load onto Chat GPT, including files, and when you mentioned title report, it kind of brought this up. What it does is it catalogs that information and now becomes part of the search results available to any other user. Where if you use a paid account, it functions like a VPN and it keeps all of that information private to you. So yeah, anyway, that's part of what they're kind of restricted from doing. And I know banks and other users that have paid accounts and big corporate accounts have that same policy.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I think we as a company have been discussing, you know, I think we're mostly leaning towards recommending that agents do get paid accounts because as you mentioned earlier in the chat, Doug, that you one thing is you sort of hit a wall, you hit their paywall once you start using it. And I think if you're going to use it every day for your business, you need a paid account or you're going to hit that wall regardless. Um, and two, my perspective is that every agent can create these tools fairly easily. Like I could create a listing launchpad tool to take care of your listing marketing and organization in 10 minutes. Like I've done it multiple times, but really the fact of the matter is the creation of it is unbelievably simple, and it's a pretty powerful tool for you. And you could replicate that for all the tasks that you would seem appropriate, right? But that is a paid situation. But you can't do that without a paid. So we're sort of leaning to that. The other thing is one of the just so you guys are aware, one of the problems we do have that we don't know quite how to solve. One of the tools we create is you saw last time is Area, and it's literally how we share it with you will be a link, and you'll click on it, and it'll be in your ChatGPT account. It'll just be off the left-hand side in perpetuity, right? And that's great, but we don't want that link to grow legs outside of our company. Like we don't want whoever using it. We don't want, the equities of the world to get it and put it in their mass distribution list, and now every equity agent gets it. We haven't quite figured out how to control just a random link. So, so we're still in some development stage, so to speak. But yeah, that's going around. And by the way, just so you're aware, I am over the next probably I don't know, month, maybe month and a half for sales meetings in my offices, doing these AI agents or custom GPT/gems. So if you want to get in on that or you want some perspective on that, I'm happy to donate some time and help you figure that out. But as always, I would encourage every single person on this call to get more comfortable with it and start I think the term is I need to dig deeper into whatever you're researching. Okay. Push its limits so you can understand what it can and can't do. And then you're going to get more comfortable with it and it'll help you expand. So and the only analogy I will tell you is that the body of the agents in just this meeting basically told me that using Real Scout, they're more comfortable using Real Scout than AI. I think everybody sort of saw that. Real Scout is an amazing tool that everybody should use. It's more complicated than using AI, without question. So if you have some trepidation or you're like, I'm not a tech person or I'm not this, you should view that as an essential part of your business and just sort of adopt it. Go in it. So if you can do Real Scout, you can do this. Okay. I would love to have a forum or huddle on how you all are using AI for your business. My son has shown me some really cool things, but I hope to know what it can also do. Yeah, I think I've been sort of toying with the idea um, on doing exactly just basically taking what I'm doing in my sales meeting and doing huddles around them. And I think that's probably going to start at the first of the year. And so we will do that. And like I said, from transaction management to listing management to, your marketing team, you can kind of have you can plan your life. You can have it just create the most amazing tools and perspectives for you. And I think it can do a lot. Linda says, its new AI rollout for Real Scout seems awesome, especially for home search. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they've made some great updates. I mean, every service that you're subscribing to or using, everybody's rolling out an AI tool. One of the things I know a lot of you, this is just a super practical and easy thing to think about. A lot of you use Gmail as sort of like your main email. Is that correct? There's a lot of people who are using Gmail. Gemini in Gmail is really powerful. And so instead of going, hey, I know I sent Judy an email, right? And you type in Judy and you're just like, that's not it. I know I did. Gemini will find and reference multiple conversations that might be close to what you're looking for. Very powerful stuff there. So I would highly encourage everybody to do that. For those of you, I think, just to give every perspective, we're still in a spot as a company. And I think the whole world is like, how do we really integrate this to make it meaningful for us? That is a current problem for everybody. And everybody's thinking about it. And we haven't really nailed down, this is exactly what we're going to do with it and why it's important. And create the tool that we're going to give you because, we have to sort of create that and spread it out. So We did wax on about that subject for quite a bit of time. And with 8 minutes left, I don't know that I want to venture into. We'll talk about this maybe next huddle. What I do want to talk about next huddle is, you're entering. You're going to enter January and February here very shortly, and my experience has taught me that that is a period of time where agents just aren't. They're sort of following the market with their agent out or their client outreach activities, which is it's not robust, it's not hard hitting, it's sort of maybe back burner ish, but it might be the perfect time to ramp up, making those phone calls to your SOI, or rehabilitating your SOI list because it's in shambles and in 14 locations, that type of thing. So we'll talk about that. We'll put together a good lesson plan for you. Or if I do hear back from you and everybody just wants to talk about creating custom GPTs or gems, we can certainly talk about that. The barriers to that conversation are paid AI services. You can come and watch and learn. It would be valuable to do that, but you won't be able to create your own without a paid service. Man, $20. Pretty cheap for what it does. I mean, honestly, like it really did get me addicted. AI. Like I'm becoming dumber. I'm becoming dumber as the weeks go on because I'm not thinking for myself anymore. Steve asks a good question. Do you think Berkshire will implement forewarn for our agents, or can they get a discount? Somebody can actually correct me on this, but so the Wasatch Back has a deal where you can, if you're a member of the Park City MLS, you get forewarn as your service. But I think somebody said the MLS is doing it, or maybe it's the Salt Lake Board of Realtors. I don't know. Somebody else rolled it out recently. Linda, you got it? With what? Iron County, Washington? Okay. Do you know this, Doug? You're a member of both.
Washington County.
I don't know it, but I was with Heidi Ingham at the sales meeting there on the Wasatch Front 2 days ago. And from what she said, she's using an alternative service because it's not included down there.
Yeah, it's Debbie says we get in Washington County. Yeah, forewarn, for those of you who don't know, I actually think is man, it's awesome. And with all the scams coming out lately, like, hey, I got a lot to list. Let's get this going. And you can just do a quick search of that phone number, and if that search comes up empty, the likelihood that it's a scam is really high. It's like takes seconds, and without that tool, it takes a lot of digging. I think I think
Mike,
the Salt Lake Board rolled it out. Yeah, hit it.
I think the Salt Lake Board did roll out free forewarn for all agents.
I just Googled it, and yeah, it's on the Salt Lake Board of Realtors. So all of you who are members of those lesser boards who can't find it in their multi-million-dollar reserves that are sitting around to provide the forewarn app to their agents, call your local board and complain and say, what, is Salt Lake more special than we are? Is Washington County better? Like, come on. And I'm not specifically targeting the Northern Wasatch Association of Realtors, though I should be, because it would be appropriate, because they are not doing that. So anyway, call your local board, complain, and just say, hey, this is a serious safety issue. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, when we talk about safety, you can literally find out if someone has an assault charge before you go show them a home. Pretty handy information. Probably very relevant to realtor safety. But, they do have to have those reserves in the boards because, I mean, what are they going to do without them? They need at least $2 or $3 million in reserves for stuff. Debbie says, I use forewarn daily. Anyway, that's my call to go and put pressure on your boards to provide better value. And thanks for showing up for Huddle. I hope it was worth your time. I hope I provided some value. And if I didn't, I'll do better next time. Thanks for coming.